Good morning, it's Daniel, the bald scrambler, and today is an absolutely fine early Monday morning. That's the 11th of July 2022, and I'm making my way up the east towards the east face of Tryfan, where hopefully I'll be making an ascent onto the north ridge via Bastow Buttress variant, which is a grade 2+ scramble. Now I feel that this is one of the most beautiful parts of Snowdonia, and as a bonus, this side of the mountain gets bathed in the morning sunlight, and as you can see on a day like today, it's not going to take long for that sun to come up. So why don't you join me as I show you what this route is all about. So this morning I've parked in the lay-by on the A5 road at the foot of Tryfan, and I've walked up behind Tryfan Bach, which is a popular area with novice climbers. I think many a climber have started their career on this mini Tryfan, which you can easily see from the A5 road. And at the first fence I'll be taking a right and heading up the gully. I don't think it has a name, which will get me onto Heather Terrace. All I'll do is follow this fence line behind Tryfan Bach all the way up this gully here, and then onto Heather Terrace. So at the top of the gully I throw a left and follow the well-worn path onto the distinctive Heather Terrace. So the Heather Terrace so far is pretty standard, boulders, rocks and scree in amongst all of the heather, but it's at this point that you can actually make out Heather Terrace proper. Wow, that was a lovely little hike along the Heather Terrace up until Bastow Buttress, which is next to Bastow Gully, and that's the first gully that you come across when you come up from the Heather Terrace. Now the starting point for this route is 10-15 meters up the gully, over the first big step and up to the right, and there's a chock stone to get past to get onto the top of the buttress. Just up here. And about 10 meters into the gully, you take a right and you'll see there's almost a V shape in the two rocks with a chock stone in the middle, and that's the best way to get up to Bastow Buttress. Now we're talking. So immediately after I turned right, there was a chockstone in front of me. I found it easy to go up on the right hand side, kind of wedged one foot forwards, the other foot back, and almost scissor chopped my way up, and then climbed over on the left hand side. And it probably looks steeper than it is, but in front of me so how are the rocks on this side? Well, let's just say I wouldn't want to be up here if it was wet. I don't think I'd want to be on these rocks, but although they're not super granular, they're not overly smooth either. So I think on a dry day it's certainly doable at the grade, but I wouldn't want to be up here when it's wet. So it's definitely one to do on a dry day like today. And as you can see, the sun is well and truly up now, so everything's nice and dry. I don't know how well you can see this, but coming up this rib closest to the gully is probably the hardest. The right hand side of that rib, moderately difficult, and I would imagine just making your way over these boulders, mostly up this heather runnel in the middle, would probably offer the least amount of resistance coming up. Now, when I got to the top of that rib that I went up the right hand side of, there was a heather section which was quite easy to navigate, and then I found there's almost a ramp just to the side of Bastow Gully. Definitely fairly steep on there. I mean, it's okay on a dry day, but I'd imagine if that was wet and you haven't got the right footwear, that could be a very interesting ramp to climb up. So this is the section that I've just climbed up, just straight up here. That said, in the gully itself, you can, if you didn't like the look of this ramp here, which is fairly steep, I'd imagine that'd be pretty horrible when it's wet, you can come in the gully slightly and then just make your way up, and there's actually a path there, and that meets up just up here. It's nice to know if you are on this route, if you just step to your right and you kind of come off the buttress almost, and it's a lot easier. Definitely, that's pretty much a grade 1 on that side, while on here that's definitely a grade 2 all the way up on there. Quite a steep drop on the other side, so at least it's nice to know you've got an alternative route. Wow, I'm nearing the top Bastow Buttress, and that's been absolutely superb scrambling so far. So to get onto the buttress, I went up the gully for 10 meters, took a right. There's quite an obvious chock stone there. I found it easier to go up the right hand wall, almost scissor kicking my way up, and then once over the chock stone, started to bear left, and there's almost two slopes going up. I found the one on the right a little bit easier to scramble up, and then after that made my way up onto a heather ledge, and then in front of me there was two obvious ribs, with the left one quite obviously steeper and a little bit more tricky than the one on the right. So I went almost in the heather runnel in the middle, and then stepped onto the rib just left of that heather runnel near the top, and then from there was another small sort of heather section, and in front of me there was a slight ridge elevated section on the left hand side with quite a clear ramp, almost looked quite smooth, and had to sort of gracefully pull myself over that. I think having good scrambling boots on and dry weather, that felt fairly easy, but I could imagine if I had just regular hiking boots on and perhaps there was a bit of grease on that slope, that could be quite treacherous, and it was a steep drop down. And then the rest of the scramble has just been quite enjoyable, grade 2 scrambling. I've kept the gully not too far off my left shoulder, and now I have the final section up here, and the end of the route comes out just below the base of the North Tower. So you continue up and then head left, pretty much takes you onto the plateau, the flat section just at the base of the North Tower, and obviously from there there's lots and lots of different options. So for me, I'm probably going to go up to the summit and have a think about what scramble I'll do next. So it's been very, very enjoyable. I've really enjoyed this. It's been perfect weather today. I've only seen one other person all day. Absolutely lovely. The rock has been, again, I wouldn't say like super smooth, it's not like glacial smooth, but it hasn't been like really grippy, just sort of in the middle. Have to be a little bit careful with choosing which holds, but you know, this is a popular route and you can see that there's well-worn rocks where people have gone up here before. So you know, as for me, what sort of rating would I give this? Well, so far I haven't finished it yet, but so far I'd probably give this an 8 out of 10 for the enjoyment, and it's definitely worth the grade 2 rating, definitely. So you know, sometimes you just have to stop, take a few breaths, and really appreciate the surroundings and how lucky I am to be within driving distance of a beautiful place like this. That is me, nearly topped out of Bastow Buttress. was well worth the effort. Very, very good scrambling up there. Quite varied as well, actually. One minute I'm on a rib, next minute I'm in a runnel. But I always felt like there was a line just on the right, which was an easier option. So never felt like I was really stuck. I always felt if I came across something a little bit challenging, I could just move over to the right and there was an easier line. So that's nice to know. Only really sort of iffy point for me was on that ramp. I just kept thinking if that was wet I really wouldn't have liked that. Apart from that, pretty standard stuff for a grade 2 scramble. Very good, very enjoyable. Certainly enjoyed that. So the elevation gain is about 100, just under 150 meters, I think. I can't tell you how long it's taken me to get up here because I've stopped and gone back and forth with the camera and the tripod and whatnot. So, but I'd imagine that would go quite quickly if I didn't have the camera. So as for me, well, I'm just shy of the North Ridge, which is just here. If you've ever been up here, you'll recognise this, and you can probably see the path here. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. If you have, do hit the like button, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, do subscribe to my channel as well. My name is Daniel. I'm known as the Bald Scrambler, and do check out my other videos on my YouTube channel as well. Thank you very much for watching.